I want to tell y'all how I felt with my child calling me to let me know that she had just got out. And I'm trying not to cry. At 5:02 a.m. on August the 11th, with my daughter covered in blood, telling me to help her. She can't breathe. That her friend got her. I have no anger against him at all. At all. My heart goes out to him, because let me tell you what y'all were doing. Some of y'all, I don't know who it was, but I was given a post that he had made maybe some weeks ago, with the comment of her saying that she found someone new, and then with him saying, oh, I found them too, and then there's a car up there with bullets and everything in the car.
In the early hours of Sunday, August 11th, 2024, police responded to shooting incidents across different locations. When they arrived at those locations, what they found will shock you. The victims were 27-year-old Kiara Massenberg and her 6-year-old daughter, Zoe Jones. Both were shot and left for dead by someone least expected to do that. The other two victims were 27-year-old Micaiah Page Arrington and 30-year-old Devonte Ricks. Micaiah and Devonte were friends with good intentions, who happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught up in the mix. What's more, a fifth person was also found dead. But how did things get so bad to result in this number of casualties? This is the story involving Kiara Massenberg, Zoe Jones, Micaiah Page Arrington, Devonte Ricks, and the alleged killer. Before we proceed, our hearts are heavy with grief as we acknowledge the unbearable loss of Kiara Massenberg and her daughter Zoe Jones, who fought for her life, but unfortunately succumbed to her injuries. Also to both friends, Micaiah Page and Devonte Ricks, who, though survived, will forever carry the indelible mark of betrayal. This story takes us back to Sharpsburg in Wilson County and Nash County in North Carolina. Wilson and Nash counties have experienced crime issues, particularly with drug trafficking and violent crimes. In terms of violent crimes, domestic violence and homicide inclusive, the crime statistics report a violent crime rate of 445.8 per 100,000 residents. Sadly, this story echoes one instance of these tragic violent events. The first victims of this heinous crime were 27-year-old Micaiah Page Arrington and 30-year-old Devonte Ricks. Micaiah had a daughter named Bella. Also, Micaiah's mother, Pamela D. Page, is an advocate against domestic violence and owns a foundation, the Pamela Dage Foundation. The other victims were Kiara Massenberg and Zoe Jones. Kiara Massenberg was born on June 8, 1997. Her family is a very private one. However, it was well known that Kiara loved having a good time with those around her, friends and family inclusive, thanks to posts on her social media platforms. Kiara was in a happy relationship with 32-year-old Dacone Marcato Jones. Together, they had a 6-year-old girl named Zoe Jones, who was described as a sweet and cheerful kid. Zoe was a friend and playmate to Bella. Kiara loved her daughter so much and was often seen in her video posts, enjoying good times together with Zoe and Dacone. But Dacone was not like other men. Dacone had a history of violence, assaulting Kiara on multiple occasions, and also getting arrested on different occasions for violence. As seen on his Facebook with the alias Shishi, Dacone blamed his attitude on losing his mom and people not understanding him. Sometimes he would sober up, posting about how he would change and would prefer his girlfriend to others. Yet he would end up beating her again. This behavior caused their relationship to spiral downhill as Kiara got fed up and sought solace in the arms of another man. She affirmed this on her Facebook, posting how she had moved on. Decoin tracked down the person that Kiara was talking to and shot up his car, hoping to have killed him. When pictures of the car were posted on Facebook, people made memes out of it, and Decoin responded to one of the memes on July 11th, 2024, saying, "I will be back to the ICU to finish the job if you survive," suggesting that he will be back to finish the job in case the victim survived. The violence on Kiara continued to one instance on July 24th, 2024, when Decoin greatly injured her. However, this incident also led to his arrest on July 27th, 2024, after getting reported. Somehow, Decoin got released later than expected, returning home on August 10th, 2024. But barely 24 hours after his return, he did the unthinkable. The brief period of freedom Decoin experienced after his release on August 10th was merely a precursor to a downward spiral of escalating violence. Within a mere 24 hours, the toxic dynamics between Decoin and Kiara resurfaced, culminating in a domestic dispute on the morning of August 11th, 2024. As the situation spiraled out of control, Decoin's friends, Micaiah and Devontae, who were present at the moment, attempted to intervene, unaware of the depths of Decoin's instability. Their efforts, though well-intentioned, proved fatal. As Decoin's anger and aggression boiled over into violence, Decoin shot both of them, severely injuring them. But something worse was about to happen. Decoin forced Kiara and his daughter Zoe into his car and drove off, leaving Micaiah and Devontae to bleed out. Still enraged, he shot Zoe on the way and then dropped her off at a home in Nash County and continued on with Kiara. Just out of nowhere, he shot so we around 500 a.m. deputies from the Sharpsburg Police Department responded to 141 Weaver Circle in Sharpsburg about a call regarding several gunshots. Deputies arrived and found 2 gunshot victims. They found 27-year-old Micaiah Page Arrington and 30-year-old Devontae Rex with gunshot wounds. Both victims were taken to the hospital, but more was about to be discovered. As the investigation intensified, authorities proceeded to a home on Yaimee Road in Battleboro, North Carolina, where they found Tuan's vehicle in the driveway. As they approached the vehicle, they found a woman, later identified as Kiara, dead in the back seat of the car. As the units approached the residence, they heard a gunshot come from inside the residence. At this point, they surrounded the home. By the time they entered, they found Decoin dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. At that same moment, they received another shocking piece of news. A young girl had been found shot at a random home and needed immediate assistance. Authorities rushed to the location and identified the girl as 6-year-old Zoe. She was still breathing, so they took her to the hospital. Unfortunately, Zoe passed away moments later. The families of the victims took a deep emotional blow due to the devastation of these happenings. A GoFundMe page was created by Nia Barner on August 13th, 2024. And the community of friends and everyone who heard about the devastating news contributed to raising an amount of $26,840 that helped with the preparations and funeral of Kiara and her daughter Zoe. The memorial and the funeral service was conducted with several friends, concerned individuals, and the local press covering their final goodbyes. They lit candles in their memory and celebrated how they lived. But the pain that sticks for them is wondering if they could have done anything to prevent how their lives ended. As we reflect on this sad story, we're left with many questions. What can we learn from Kiara's experience about the importance of seeking help in abusive relationships? What are the common red flags to recommend for all mothers to watch in such relationships? On July 10th, 2022, Police received a call about a disturbance at an apartment complex. Officers rushed to the scene, prepared for anything, but not for what lay ahead. When they forced their way inside, they found a nightmare. 3 bodies were lying there: the suspect's mother, his stepfather, and his girlfriend, the one who seemed to be his main target. One female officer stated that she had never seen such level of cruelty in her entire career. Not ever get over this. I would never get over somebody doing this to my police. The story began a month earlier, on June 2nd, 2022. Late that night, the suspect and his girlfriend had a terrible argument. Known for his jealous nature, he demanded her phone password, but she refused. Her defiance to give out the password enraged him, and he struck her repeatedly. As his anger deepened, he poured gasoline on her leg, then went looking for a lighter. In that horrifying moment, she saw a slim chance to escape and took it, running out into the dark streets. It was 3 a.m., and she sprinted to a neighbor's house. When she rang the doorbell, her heart pounded, until finally, the door opened. The neighbor saw her distress, called the police, and the man fled. But the story didn't end there. His mother posted bail, and he was released. Just 2 days later, his mother, stepfather, and girlfriend were found dead. This is the horrifying story of Zella Frazier. This story takes us all the way to Detroit, Michigan, a city with a complex history, shaped by economic shifts and social challenges that have influenced its crime rate. S.A. Frazier was a woman whose kindness and vibrant spirit was evident in everything she did.
She had a natural charm and an uncanny ability to steer life in the direction she wanted, a mix of determination and grace that made her unforgettable to everyone she met. So when this story saturated, people remember all her good character about her. Growing up with 6 siblings, Zella witnessed firsthand the battles her family endured. She watched as her brother fought bravely against cancer, and as her sister faced the lifelong challenges of cerebral palsy. That's why she wanted to become a nurse. These experiences left a profound impact on her, igniting a deep-seated desire to help others, especially those facing medical struggles. Sa wasn't just pursuing nursing for a career. It was a mission born from her own family's trials, a calling that went far beyond herself. Whatever it was, it captured the heart of a boy named Jonathan Welch. They started dating when she was just 16 and he was 17. 2 young souls completely smitten with each other. Their bond was so strong that everyone around them believed they were destined for a lifetime together. Their love story unfolded publicly on social media, where they posted about their relationship with pride, sparking both admiration and a hint of envy from others. When they celebrated their 6th anniversary in October 2020, they were expecting a baby. The news brought them boundless joy, and they shared it eagerly with friends and family. "Man, he get to carry on this greatness. We have a boy. He got to be great. He got to be great. He got to be great. He got to another victory for Big McDonald doing another victory for Ye." Za took to social media to express her excitement, reassuring her unborn child of her love and promising a world of support. Jonathan, too, embraced the role of a soon-to-be father, stepping up with a commitment to build a strong foundation for their little family. Together they moved forward as a team, carefully planning for their baby's arrival and creating a world filled with love and safety. But beneath the surface of their shared joy and dreams, a shadow loomed, a darkness neither of them could yet see, waiting to change everything. Zella was strikingly beautiful, and she did attract plenty of attention online. Men often left flirty or inappropriate comments, but this was simply part of the social media world she was building for herself, hoping for brand collaborations to support her boutique and her modeling career. Yet Jonathan couldn't accept this. The more popular she became, the more his jealousy festered, reaching a point where he began to accuse her of cheating. His insecurity reached such extremes that he demanded access to her phone, scouring through messages and notifications for proof of betrayal. Though he never found anything, his relentless searching didn't calm his fears. On June 2nd, 2022, at approximately 3 a.m., their newborn baby started crying. So, both Jonathan and Frazier woke up to the noise. The mother, as expected, woke up promptly to attend to her baby, and Jonathan just in bed, eyes open but doing nothing. After a short while, idle Jonathan grabbed Frazier's cell phone that was on the bedside table and swiped, but the phone was locked. He asked the password to Frazier's cell phone. When Frazier refused, Jonathan jumped out of their bed and reached the power extension cord, wrapping it around her neck and repeatedly applying and releasing pressure. Remember, Frazier had just given birth to their new baby, so she was physically too weak to fight back. Having her tied up with the cord, Jonathan, who had gasoline hidden in their bedroom, poured it on Frazier's body, specifically between her legs. He did not stop on that. Jonathan heaved a metal spatula on the stove to Frazier's arms and legs. He attempted to assault her with a large pole during the attack. Also, he beat her several times with his belt and threatened her with a power drill. But this wasn't even the most shocking part of this brutal morning. The most shocking part was that Jonathan was so determined to continue hitting her that even when he was tired, he rested and then continued again after gathering some strength. The attack lasted for approximately 4 hours, held her hostage for hours. He beat her, and when he got tired, he rested and beat her some more. What he did torture her. He poured gasoline on her. He wanted to kill her. Frazier managed to convince Jonathan to remove the extension cord so she could tend to their crying child. When he did, Frazier ran out of the front door fully to a neighbor's house. Jonathan chased her frantically, hoping to get a hold of her before she could reach the neighbor's house. But the adrenaline of someone fighting for her life was too much to handle. My sister was fully... She ran out the house and ran to a nearby neighbor house to get help. How do you let somebody out that did that to somebody? How do you let them out? And S.A. made sure to be on the front foot. Luckily for her, the neighbors responded immediately. Jonathan followed her to the neighbor's porch, attempted to pull her back, but eventually left. The neighbors took Frazier in, provided her with a blanket, and called 911. 911 arrived and met Zella in a devastating state, but she was still able to give the exact description of Jonathan and the car he was using. A bolo was issued immediately, and in no time his location was revealed. Za was taken to the hospital to assess the severity of the injuries and appropriate treatment. Detroit police officers were dispatched to the scene at 7:24 a.m. and arrested Jonathan later that day at 11:24 a.m. Following the attack, Jonathan was charged with multiple felonies, including torture, home invasion, criminal conduct, assault with intent to commit sexual penetration, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, and 3 counts of felonious assault. Despite the severity of the charges, Jonathan was issued a $100,000 bond, 10% cash or shitty, by Magistrate Don White, with 10% cash required. This meant that Jonathan would be out of jail on $10,000 bond in no time. His mother was able to raise the bond amount and get him out of jail, but he was ordered to have no contact with Za, and he was to wear a GPS tether and also stay in his mother's house. Many, especially at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, were stunned by the low bond set for Jonathan given the trauma he had put ZA through. You know, $10,000 is easy to come up with. It's people that steal something from a store that would get more than $10,000. You tortured somebody, assaulted somebody, and you got out with paying $10,000. The prosecutor's office vowed to push for a higher bond once they gathered substantial evidence to support Zella's claims. But Za, meanwhile, was trying to heal and move on. She moved to her parents' family. She was finding a sense of peace and freedom she hadn't felt in far too long. She desperately needed that break. And her family, seeing the toll everything had taken on her, rallied to give her a much-needed reprieve. On July 10, 2022, her family organized a gathering in her honor, filling the day with laughter and warmth. It was a celebration of Zella's strength and her fresh start. When I see you, that's it. A day filled with joy and hope for the future. Yet tragically, no one knew this would be the last time they'd see her. Later that same day, Jonathan's mother reached out to Za, asking her to come by for a talk. She promised that Jonathan wasn't there, trying to reassure Zella of her safety. In truth, Zella no longer feared him being around. Part of her still hoped he would change, that he would become the partner she had once loved and the father their child deserved. Just minutes after Za honored the visit, 911 was called to Jonathan's mom's vicinity. When police arrived, they were met with a shock of a lifetime. Jonathan's mother lay there with a knife stuck in her back. Apparently, she managed to crawl her way to a neighbor's house and begged that they call 911. When she asked who did that to her, there was only one name on her lips: Jonathan. While the reason he went that far was unknown, the police still had one big task on their hands. Inside Jonathan's mother's house was Za, his stepfather, and the 1-year-old baby. The police knew they had a situation on their hands and needed to act fast. But what they didn't know was that the situation was a dress rehearsal compared to what they were going to meet in the home. The police went to the home immediately, demanding that Jonathan come out. Jonathan turned a deaf ear toward them and instead chose to engage them in a gun battle. Before that, neighbors cited him lowering the 1-year-old child through the window and decided to go rescue the baby. Luckily for them, the baby was unharmed. However, they still needed to save the 2 people in the home with Jonathan. Meanwhile, a fierce standoff had ensued with both officers and Jonathan firing at each other. Seeing he stood no chance, he lit the house with him inside on fire. Frantic efforts were made to flush him out while also trying to put out the fire. After 7 hours, Jonathan finally surrendered himself to the police. They immediately went to save Za and his stepfather and were met with a horrific sight. Both bodies lay lifeless, unalived by blunt-force trauma. Jonathan's mother was in critical condition at the time and was rushed to the hospital. After Jonathan Welch's mother, Flossie Nicole Bray, was rushed to the hospital, she fought for her life, but ultimately succumbed to her injuries on July 16, 2022. The 3rd victim of a tragic family attack in Harper Woods has died tonight. The suspect is facing a slew of charges. The incident unfolded inside a home on Kenosha earlier this month, just days after the suspect was released on bond. Her death marked the 3rd in a tragic series of events that had started in the Bray home in Harper Woods. Welch, already in custody after a 7-hour standoff with police at his mother's house, faced a series of charges. These included 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his mother, Flossie Bray, his stepfather, Robert Bray Jr., and his girlfriend, Za Frazier. Additionally, he was charged with assault with intent to murder, second-degree arson, felonious assault, and felony firearm offenses. The family of Za was beyond devastated when they heard of the news, wondering why Zella had accepted the invitation. It was later uncovered that Jonathan was also responsible for the murder of Natala Morse, a 24-year-old woman found dead in a field on Detroit's East Side on June 4, 2022. Jonathan was accused of murdering Morse through blunt force trauma to the head, stealing her car, and setting it ablaze. It's hard to believe that someone would just beat a woman to death and then throw her body into a field just like this one. Family members still can't believe to this day that it happened. He faced charges for this 4th murder, which had occurred even before his initial arrest in June 2022. In a preliminary examination held in August 2022, the court reviewed the extensive list of charges and the details surrounding each assault, including the violent attack on Zella Frazier in June 2022. By July 2023, Jonathan Welch had pleaded guilty to all charges connected to the deaths of his family members, his girlfriend, and Natala Morse. On November 1st, 2023, Jonathan was sentenced to 45 to 70 years in prison for the murders of 3, with an additional sentence of 20 to 40 years for the murder of Nata Morris. The sentences were ordered to be served concurrently, marking the end of a deeply tragic and violent series of events. Given that Jonathan repeatedly demonstrated he was a danger to Zah, their child, and society as a whole, should he have been granted bond at all? Doesn't allowing him a bond contradict the purpose of a correctional system? Was paying that bond supposed to suggest he would change his behavior? Should the authorities bear full responsibility for this tragedy? Definitely broken. They should never let him out. They let him out of jail and he killed my sister. He killed my sister. They should never let him out of prison. I don't have nothing to say. Police called the bond given to Welsh an opportunity to kill. He was given a chance with bond at that time, and took his freedom as an opportunity to finish a job and kill victim Frazier. And as for his mother, did she perhaps see signs of Jonathan's abusive behavior and choose to ignore them, or was she genuinely unaware of how dangerous he was? On March 7, 2016, Chevrolet, Maryland was thrown into chaos after police officers discovered the bodies of a woman and her sister at around 10:30 p.m. lying helplessly at the Chevrolet Station apartment complex. The officers who were alerted to the sound of gunshots were able to identify the bodies of 26-year-old Tariq Jones, as well as 22-year-old Jalissa Walls Harris. While this was shocking enough, the officers would discover something even more troubling. A few days ago, the killer was in jail for another domestic case. One of the deceased women paid $20,000 to bail him out. Just a few days later, the police were called to the same residence where they made a gruesome discovery. Less than a week before Kevin Reynolds murdered the mother of his child, Tariq Jones, and her sister, Jalissa Harris, he was bailed out of jail by Jones herself. She did pay to have him, removed from jail. Judge Joseph Wright set the bond at $20,000. Prosecutors didn't object, and Reynolds was released. This is the heartbreaking story of Tariq Jones. Before we begin, we would love to extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Tariq Jones, as well as everyone affected by the tragic event. For you to better understand the people in this story, let me share with you their backgrounds from Chevy, Maryland. Being a suburb of Washington, D.C., Chevrolet, Maryland has a higher-than-average crime rate, with violent crimes less common than property crimes. The town is less safe than most cities in Maryland. It is little wonder why the violence that took the life of Tariq Jones was reported from this very city. Tariq Len Jones, born on May 21, 1989 in Prince George's County, Maryland, to Tawanda Jones Reed and the late Terry Lee Walls, lived a life that represented her ambition and resilience. She spent her childhood in Maryland attending Calvert County Public Schools before graduating from Huntington High School in 2007. With a passion for education management, Tariq embarked on a journey of self-improvement. Enrolling at Fortis College in Hyattsville, Maryland, to become a dental assistant. But her pursuit of a brighter future was about more than just personal ambition. There was a deeper purpose driving her every step. Tariq had 3 daughters at the center of her world. She wanted to make the best out of her life for her and her 3 girls. She made sure to take good care of them and did not fail to showcase them to the world via social media. However, there was one person she refused to showcase. It was the father of her youngest daughter. His name was Kevin Tyrese Reynolds from District Heights, Maryland. Kevin was involved in a romantic relationship with Tariq. As usual, their relationship was one filled with love and trust. The pair had been engaged in romantic dealings for a while, and everything went smoothly for some time, and then the unusual began to happen. Kevin became a beast of nature. The pair became involved in constant fights that would sometimes draw the attention of neighbors, who most times did their best to stay out of a family issue. While the fights went on for a while, it is almost possible to miss one very unhealthy factor about these fights. It was the fact that they all happened in front of 3 growing female children. Most of them weren't mentally prepared to witness such confrontations. However, it may seem as though the situation was that of a handicapped situation with no one able to speak about it or do anything whatsoever about it. And usually women in this type of position could only hope that things got better. However, in this particular case, it never did, because what was about to happen marked the beginning of the end for Tariq. In February, Kevin was dropping off their daughter when a heated exchange took place. Remember, Kevin and Tariq shared a daughter, and they put an arrangement in place, one which saw Kevin pick her up and drop her off on certain occasions. However, this occasion was a particularly different one, as it saw their daughter witness a side of her father she probably never knew existed. It was 6:00 p.m., and Kevin arrived in his usual fashion where he'd park, and Tika would go pick her up from the front seat. But on this occasion, what Tika didn't know was that Kevin had other plans. While she tried to pick up her baby, Kevin, who was calculating his move, rushed her, grabbed her, and threw her to the ground. As if this were not enough, he made an intentional charge towards her, where he continued his aggression by picking her up, tossing her about, almost as if he was determined to end her that very minute. However, after much back and forth, Tariq was finally able to get back on her feet. And like a prey who managed to break free from the claws of a hungry predator, she scampered to safety, to the shelter of her neighbors. But while she must have felt the situation had died down, it was only just beginning. Just as she tried to call the police due to the fact that she still felt threatened, Kevin found a way to get at her and threw her phone away. Tar, confused as the situation seemed helpless to her, still managed to get some other phone. And with Kevin not nearby but not so far off this time, tried to reach the police through 911. This time the call went through. But just as the dispatcher was trying to get the location from which Tariq was calling from so they could send immediate help, Kevin could be heard visibly in the background screaming and yelling, "Trying to pull out our apartment. It's a problem with your kids here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It don't matter." The dispatcher needed no further information to know that this was indeed a grave danger situation that needed immediate intervention. Eventually, officers were sent to the location. It was when they got to the scene that Tariq admitted even more shocking information to them. According to her, Kevin thought she was on the phone with her other baby daddy, and in a moment of instant rage, ran back to his truck to pick up a handgun. Tariq, scared to death on the other hand, rushed to call the police. But then, and there, something utterly unbelievable happened. Kevin's mother intercepted her almost as though she felt her pain and wanted to help her, but then seized her phone, ordering her not to call the police on her son. After the exclusive information, Kevin was arrested and charged with first-degree assault. While this should have brought smiles and relief to Tariq, this wasn't the case. In fact, quite odd and shockingly, the reverse was the case. You see, notwithstanding the fact that Tariq was at risk with Kevin not behind bars, she was a woman with a heavy load to carry. The burden of 3 demanding girls was no joke, and there was no denying that Kevin was useful in that aspect. The thought of this echoed through Tariq's head. And finally, Tariq went on to make the most costly decision of her life. She made a move at the county court, expressing to them that she was no longer in fear for her life, and that she wanted Kevin released. Initially, Kevin had no bond set for him, but the defendant requested a $5,000 bond with a 10% option. However, the situation had gotten more complicated than they had initially imagined. Judge Joseph Wright went through Kevin's violent record, reading them to everyone in the courtroom. Some of the crimes included destruction, first-degree assault, and a weapon conviction. Therefore, he was not convinced that $5,000 was fair, although everyone pushed for that. It was Tariq's case. Quite right. But it had gotten bigger than just her. Kevin was now considered a threat to society, and a release of such magnitude would require a higher bond value to match it. What you're about to hear is Kevin's bond hearing I managed to source for you. Reynolds is currently being held in no bond. We are asking that you set a bond, Your Honor, to a $5,000 bond with a 10% option, and pretrial release. I have had occasion to speak to Ms. Jones. She indicates that she is not in fear of him and that she in fact wants him home. The facts read as a fairly violent episode. And then if I look at his record, destruction, conviction for assault, which is what this case is actually charged as first-degree assault, another conviction for assault, a weapons conviction as well. He believes he got off on probation 2 days ago. Miss Jones, dispute some of the allegations in the statement of charges. Your Honor, I believe that a $5,000 bond is appropriate in this matter. I disagree for all the reasons I said, for public safety, for the record, for the way the banks read. I'll set a bond. It'll be $20,000. As you have heard, the judge set Kevin's bond at $20,000. And with Kevin financially incapacitated in jail, the bond would be paid by someone that raised eyebrows. From the sole help of Tariq, the bond was raised, and Kevin was finally free. This move would have devastating consequences, but would mean nothing if we do not at this time introduce a key figure in this story, Jalissa Walls Harris. Jalissa was Tariq's stepsister. She was born on October 25, 1993, and grew up in Maryland as well. Jalissa was known for her vibrant personality and her close relationship with her family, particularly her stepsister Tara. She was a supportive and caring individual who found herself entangled in the complexities of Tariq's life, including her troubled relationship with Kevin. Now, with that being established, Kevin bailed from jail, returns to Tariq's life. The shocking part of this is that things never even got better again before they got worse this time. In fact, over the next few days, tensions between Tariq and Kevin continued to rise. The relationship was marked by domestic violence and Tariq's. Family and friends were concerned about her safety. Despite these concerns, Tariq remained in the relationship because Kevin paid some of the bills. And now, things were about to get even worse for Tariq, and this time permanently. Just 6 days after his release from jail, which happened to fall on the evening of March 7, 2016, Kevin went to Tariq's apartment in the Chevy Station complex in Beverly, Maryland. An argument ensued between them, likely fueled by the ongoing tensions and unresolved issues in their relationship. Neighbors reported hearing loud arguing followed by 3 gunshots. The argument between Tariq and Kevin escalated into violence. And with Tariq's stepsister Jalissa present and with everyone aware of Kevin's violent nature, it is safe to say that she must have tried to interfere. Maybe not violently, but if she interfered at all, this had dire consequences. In a tragic turn of events, Kevin pulled out a gun and shot both Tariq and Jalissa, who tried to control the situation. Both women fell under the kitchen table. This wasn't the most troubling part of everything. The shooting was witnessed by one of Tariq's young children, a 5-year-old daughter, who was also Kevin's daughter, and who was present in the apartment. Police were quickly called to the scene after reports of gunshots. Upon arrival, they found both Tariq and Jalissa dead from multiple gunshot wounds. Tonight, State Attorney Angela Allerbrooks reviewing exactly how that could have happened. I wish we had kept him in jail. As we first reported yesterday, Reynolds was locked up March 1st, accused of brutally beating Tariq Jones, pointing a gun at her, making threats. He would still be locked up on a no-bond status if Jones had not gone to Reynolds' bond review and recanted her story of the assault. Judge Joseph Wright set the bond at $20,000. She did pay to have him, removed from jail. And this is the worst-case scenario. The police launched an immediate investigation into the double homicide with Kevin identified as the prime suspect. A manhunt began. Police searched for him in the area, alerting nearby jurisdictions to be on the lookout for him. However, they were in for the surprise of a lifetime. The next morning on March 8, 2016, police found Kevin dead in Hanover County, Virginia. He had taken his own life with a self-inflicted wound using the same weapon, ending the manhunt and bringing a tragic conclusion to the events. The news of the double homicide and Kevin's subsequent death was one that the community did not respond to with pleasure. Think about you. And if there's a child involved, you have to think about you and that child. That comes first before any type of other relationship. Residents of the Chevrolet Station apartments were deeply disturbed by the incident, especially since it occurred in a place they considered safe. Neighbors expressed sadness and disbelief, stating how much people didn't value life anymore. She wanted to make something out of herself. 27 with 3 children or not, she still wanted to come out of poverty. She wanted to be the best mother that she could be. It's just sad she doesn't get that chance. Tariq was remembered as a kind and outgoing person who was studying to become a dental hygienist. Jalissa was described as a vibrant young woman with aspirations to become a vocalist. Family members and friends shared fond memories of both women, highlighting their positive impact on those around them. The community rallied around Tariq's children who were left without a mother. Neighbors and friends expressed sympathy for the children who had witnessed the traumatic event. A GoFundMe page was set up to help cover funeral expenses for Jalissa Walls Harris. The incident brought attention to the issue of domestic violence in Prince George's County. It marked the 8th domestic violence-related homicide in the county for that year. State's Attorney Angela Ulsbrooks emphasized the need for stronger laws to protect victims of domestic abuse. But who failed the deceased in this case? Was it the laws? This story is another one of those stories where the final outcome could have been prevented. While some may be quick to crucify Tariq for posting bond, we cannot underscore the trauma she must have been going through at that point in time. Having to go through a series of abuse by the man she obviously loved the most, after which fighting for her life made her to call the police on him. As we pause to reflect, our attention shifts 370 miles away from Chevy, Maryland, to Wilmington, North Carolina, where a truly bizarre event has just unfolded. In the entire time I've been in this office, I have never seen a more extensive investigation to try and bring a child home than what I've been personally witnessing over these last 2 weeks. On November 17, 2022, a body was found in a landfill in Pender County, North Carolina. Officers identified the body as 16-year-old Mayona Jones, but her tragic death was only the beginning. The shocking cause and chilling circumstances surrounding it led the Attorney General's lead investigator to call it the most intense case he had ever encountered in his career. This is the heartbreaking story of Mayona Jones. This case happening in Wilmington, North Carolina, exposes us to a city that has seen some recent improvements in crime rates, particularly in violent crime. However, the city's overall crime levels remain above the national average, with property crime being a notable concern. Crime rates vary across neighborhoods, with some areas being safer than others. Mayona Tanya Jones was born on November 11, 2005, to parents Maya Sears and Maurice Jones. She was born in Wilmington, North Carolina, and attended New Hover High School. She was described as a fun-loving person who everyone loved to be around. Being an extroverted person, she also loved being around people, which is little wonder why on November 2, 2022, when no one had seen or heard from her for a day, the whole town was thrown into chaos. Her mother had come out on social media to express grief over the fact that her daughter hadn't been seen since November 1st. However, her post went far beyond just the fact that her daughter was missing. She expressed concern over the poor treatment from police officers who made sure to delay her for 3 hours before the first officer showed up to her. However, this wasn't all. The officers, even after showing up, didn't take her report seriously, even after being in contact with the last person who saw her. Usually in cases like this, an Amber Alert or BOLO would have been activated, but this wasn't the case, and it was troubling for Maya, who had no idea what was coming next. Just as they were still on the Mayona case, another 16-year-old student of Hanover High School named Araali Roas Enes was reported missing. It was at this point that the police department suspected a potential outbreak and decided to take the whole issue seriously. With the missing person issue growing bigger than the county, the office of the district attorney set up a task force to search the whole of Hanover County. And in 2 weeks' time, they had gotten their first big reveal. The task force, with tips here and there leading to intel, found out quite the most shocking revelation. The police had found 2 suspects related to Myona Jones's disappearance, and it wasn't who anyone would have expected. It was Myona's half-brother, Jerice Jones, in the company of his girlfriend, Randy Johnson. According to investigators, they found out that Jerice had been alone with just before she went missing. In fact, he was the last person she had been with before the unfortunate event. And with that being established, the investigators had only one line of action left: to arrest and prosecute the pair. On November 7, 2022, Jerice made his first court appearance following his arrest on unrelated charges. He had been in custody ever since November 3rd, when he was detained for being alone with Myona, who had been reported missing days earlier. During the hearing, Assistant District Attorney Connie Jordan indicated that foul play was suspected in Iona's case and highlighted Jerice's history as a registered sex offender due to previous sexual assault charges. Jones was taken into custody on a parole violation, according to prosecutors. That's because he's a registered sex offender. He pleaded guilty back in 2015 to assaulting multiple women. We now know that the minor he was in a car with was his sister, Myona Jones, who was last seen last Tuesday. Jerice was held on a bond of $1.275 million for charges including first-degree kidnapping and rape. His girlfriend, who was also arrested for obstruction of justice related to Myona's disappearance, appeared in court with a bond set at $100,000. The DA emphasized that Randy had interfered with the investigation, stating that based on everything they knew, they believed horrible things had happened to Myona. The court set their next appearance for November 17th, but little did they know that on that same day, they were going to make a grim discovery that would change the direction of this case. On November 17th, 2022, the search for 16-year-old Myona Jones turned into a tragic discovery. After 2 weeks of extensive searching, a body was found in Pender County, North Carolina. The Wilmington Police Department, along with various agencies, including the FBI and local fire departments, had been searching diligently when they came across the body and when. Forensics were called to examine it. It turned out to undoubtedly be that of My Jones. Wilmington Police Chief Donnie Williams and District Attorney Ben David held a press conference to announce the discovery. They expressed deep sorrow for Myona's family and emphasized the ongoing investigation. It has been a very somber 2 weeks for the entire community and has unfortunately come to a tragic end. The body of 16-year-old Myona Jones was discovered earlier in Pender County. While the exact location of her body was not disclosed, it was noted that the search had initially concentrated on the new Hanover County landfill. And during the press conference, Chief Williams remarked on the extensive nature of the investigation, stating he had never witnessed such a dedicated effort to finding a missing child. District Attorney David indicated that forensic evaluations would be necessary before additional charges could be filed against those involved, particularly her half-brother, Jerice Jones, who was already in custody. This case, we do anticipate murder charges coming out. But we are going to be deliberate and make sure that we have the necessary forensic evaluations that need to take place. Both officials urged the community to support Myona's family during this difficult time and reiterated their commitment to pursuing justice for her death. The case remained active as investigators worked to uncover further details surrounding her tragic fate. District Attorney David confirmed what everyone wanted to hear. Jerice would face murder charges, expressing a commitment to ensure justice for Myona. He indicated that further forensic evaluations were necessary before additional charges could be finalized. The authorities remained tight-lipped about specific details surrounding her death, stating that this information would be revealed during court proceedings. The day after Myona's body was discovered, Jerice was charged with first-degree murder. He was already in custody on unrelated charges when authorities linked him to disappearance. His bond was revoked, and he was held without bond as he awaited trial. Randy, who had previously been charged with obstruction of justice, faced similar scrutiny as investigators sought to understand her role in the events leading up to death. This development indicated that multiple individuals were potentially involved in covering up or hindering the investigation into Maiona's disappearance. The discovery of Maiona's body sent a wave of terror through Wilmington and surrounding areas. Community members organized vigils to honor her memory and express solidarity with her grieving family. These gatherings served as a platform for individuals to share their sorrow and support for one another during this difficult time. Many attendees emphasized the importance of youth safety and called for increased awareness regarding issues affecting young people. No reason why killers are walking around here for murdering, and you people know about it and will not assist the police department with tips or anything. Local organizations also stepped in to provide resources for those impacted by the tragedy. Support groups formed to help families dealing with similar losses, highlighting a collective effort to foster healing within the community. As investigators continued to gather evidence related to Maiona's death, they worked closely with various agencies, including the FBI and local law enforcement departments. The extensive nature of the investigation drew attention from both local and national media outlets, keeping the case in the public eye. District Attorney Ben David assured the community that every effort would be made to hold those responsible accountable. He noted that this case had seen an unprecedented level of collaboration among law enforcement agencies. "I want the community to know that our officers have worked tirelessly around the clock these past 2 weeks searching for her. The Wilmington Police Department didn't do this alone. We've been assisted by several organizations. That includes the new Hemare County Sheriff's Office. So I want to thank Sheriff Ed McMahon, New Hover County Environmental Management and Landfill staff, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Brunswick Search and Rescue, the Wington Fire Department, the Pender County Sheriff's Office, and the Q Center, emphasizing their commitment to thoroughness in pursuing justice for Maiona." In subsequent court proceedings, it was revealed that Jaw Rhee could face the death penalty. During a pre-trial conference on February 16, 2023, the prosecution proposed that Jaw Rhee's case be tried as a first-degree capital murder case. Superior Court Judge Frank Jones ruled in favor of this proposal, indicating the seriousness of the charges against him. District Attorney Ben David stated that every murder is considered heinous, but some cases warrant capital punishment due to their particularly egregious nature. David emphasized that the decision to pursue the death penalty was not taken lightly. He mentioned that they had convened a capital review committee to determine whether aggravating circumstances were present in Maiona's case, as not every first-degree murder qualifies for the death penalty. The committee concluded that there were sufficient grounds to seek capital punishment, and this determination was supported by the judge. In addition to the murder charge, Jairus faced charges of first-degree kidnapping, first-degree rape, and incest. His girlfriend Randy and his grandmother Judy Knight were also charged with obstruction of justice in connection with the case. The legal proceedings drew significant media attention and community interest as details surrounding Maiona's tragic fate continued to emerge. As the case progressed through the court system, public sentiment remained focused on seeking justice for Maiona. Many community members attended hearings to support her family and advocate for accountability for those involved in her death. The possibility of the death penalty added a layer of gravity to the proceedings, reflecting the community's desire for justice in this heartbreaking case. Jairus faced mounting pressure as details surrounding his alleged involvement began to surface. Prosecutors presented evidence linking him to Maiona's disappearance and death. While defense attorneys sought to challenge these claims, the courtroom became a focal point for public interest. As community members attended hearings to show their support for Maiona's family as legal proceedings progressed, more information emerged regarding Jairus's past criminal history as a registered sex offender. This background raised further concerns about his ability to interact safely with minors and fueled discussions about systemic issues related to youth protection. The story of Maiona continues to resonate within her community as legal proceedings unfold against those charged in connection with her death. The collective grief experienced by friends and family serves as a reminder of the need for vigilance and protecting vulnerable individuals. As investigators work diligently to piece together the circumstances surrounding her untimely demise, many hope that justice will prevail for Myona and that her legacy will inspire positive change within society. This tragic case of Myona teaches us important lessons about community safety, the necessity of vigilance regarding youth protection, and the critical role of collaboration in law enforcement efforts. It highlights the emotional toll on those involved in such cases and underscores the need for mental health support. Additionally, it raises awareness about the complexities of the legal system and the importance of advocating for stronger protections for vulnerable individuals, which leaves us with this question. What proactive steps can we take as individuals and communities to ensure the safety and well-being of our youth? And how can we better support families in crisis? And even though why he did it wasn't clear, we'd love to know what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Here are some of the other shocking stories we've covered on this channel, and they're even more disturbing than what you just watched. I hope you learned something from them. If you like the way we present these stories, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. See you in the next one.